Warning: the following context may include scary sequences of light horror and many thrills. Some gruesome descriptions involving children may be present in some chapters. Some material may be unsettling to certain audiences. But don't worry, everything will be okay. Probably. Chapter 3. I Don't Believe in Ghosts. Danny, Martha, and I pile into the kitchen with our buckets of freshly picked apples. "Whoa, looks good, kids," Grandfather says as he places the apples in the sink. "Let's get them washed up and ready for some caramel." The three of us dunk, scrub, and rinse until all the apples are squeaky clean. "Hey, Grandpa Dowie," Martha asks as she dries a green apple, "have you ever seen strange things in this field? Maybe like a ghost?" I sigh, sure that what I had seen was not a ghost. Well, I'm almost sure. Grandfather looks up from washing a pot. "Well, they do tell of ghost stories in this town, especially around this time of year." Martha nearly explodes from excitement. Poor Danny looks nervous and starts fidgeting with a towel. "Really?" A huge smile grows on Martha's face. I may not be as into ghost tales as she is, but I have to admit, I'm quite intrigued given my encounter with whatever I saw. Grandfather chuckles. "Nah, I'm messing with you." Martha's face drops to a pouty lip. "All that's out there are some broken down tractors and a couple of forgotten scarecrows." Danny looks relieved. I'm slightly disappointed, however, because now I really don't know what I saw. "Why the sudden interest?" Grandmother asks as she walks around the corner carrying a box full of canned tomatoes. "Dixie saw something out in the field, like a ghost," Martha chimes. "You did?" Danny asks, gulping down a bite of apple. "Well, I wouldn't say it was a ghost," I explain, attempting to counter the ghost accusations. "But I'm not sure what it was or who it was. It was difficult to see. The wind was blowing so much." Grandmother laughs lightly. "I'm sure it's one of those forgotten scarecrows your grandfather was talking about. Those things have been out there for years." "Yeah, that makes sense," Danny says, once again relieved. "Do you even believe in ghosts, Grandma Dowie?" She laughs again. "Haven't had any proof of them yet, and I've been around the sun a time or two." "Oh, I have lots of proof," Martha states. "There are so many sightings in nearly every part of the world. There is this one book where—" Grandma interrupts her. "I'm sure that many people believe they've seen ghosts or aliens and such. But if they were true, how come so many people have not encountered them?" she asks. "Not trying to be rude, dear, but it seems more like silly tales to scare children at night." She looks at me, laying a hand on my shoulder. "There's nothing out there." It's nearly 5 o'clock and people are beginning to arrive. Becky from church brings her 2 young children and they start at the hay bale mini golf. Chuck and Barb run the farmer's market every other weekend, and they brought a tote full of fresh produce to give out. Barb always wears her blue polka-dotted sundress, and Chuck always wears his old cowboy hat. They are a silly but cute old couple. Danny's mama and his 2 younger siblings, Billy and Tori, both 11, arrive right at 5. Danny goes to greet them and help Mama carry her lawn chairs. Danny may only be 15, but he's more a man to his family than most fathers I've met. I watch as he carries 3 folded lawn chairs over his shoulder while still holding his mama's hand while she walks over some mud puddles. He knows how she is about getting her shoes dirty. Tori runs over to me and gives me a big hug. "Hey, Dixie," she squeezes her arms tightly around my neck. "The farm looks great." "Thank you. We worked hard," I say, putting her back on the ground. I love Halloween week, and this year it's on a Friday, even spookier. She smiles big. Tori has always been a big fan of Halloween. Unlike Danny, she enjoys being scared. "Will you guys be open every night leading up to Halloween?" "Yep, we've got a big calendar out on the side of the barn where the donuts and cider are," I say, pointing to the big sign across the driveway. "Want to go check it out?" She grabs my hand and pulls me over to the barn. She waves at Chuck and Barb, and we pass their table. The snack barn is red and white, classic. There are 3 picnic tables with orange and white checkered print tablecloths on them. A few more sit outside the lawn. Opal, one of Grandmother's friends from church, sits at the snack booth. "Well, hello, dears. What are you having tonight?" She points to the menu above her. Hot apple cider, pickles on a stick, caramel cotton candy, hot dogs and hamburgers, chips of your choice, sodas, pumpkin donuts, chocolate cupcakes with spider sprinkles, and the squash soup and chili that Grandfather had made earlier are written on the board. So many options, Tori says with excitement. Her black curls bounce back and forth in her pigtails as she sways indecisively. "I'll take an apple cider and some caramel cotton candy, please." "Sounds good, dear. That will be 75 cents. Tori pulls some quarters out of her pink coin purse and hands them to Opal. "And for you, Dixie?" Opal looks at me for my order. "I'll just take a donut for now." I hand over a couple quarters, and Tori and I go sit on the picnic table. Martha stomps in and plops down next to me, arms folded. "What's wrong?" I ask her, taking a bite of my donut, which, by the way, is fantastic. Connor is here, preppy and shaking hands as if he's hosting, as if he helped prepare everything. She turns to look at me. He's even taking credit for how clean the yard is. Mrs. Clark, our teacher, thinks he's such a good little boy. Ew. A smirk grows on my face. "How about we go ask him how all the prepping went?" She jumps up, grabs my hand, and drags me to where he is. I shove the last half of donut in my mouth as Martha pulls me across the yard. Tori skips behind us, careful not to spill her cider. Connor is standing by a picnic table talking with Mrs. Clark and a few other adults, smiling and nodding as if he cares about more than just increasing his popularity. He wears a blue collared shirt under a brown knit sweater. His blonde hair is combed to the left with a perfectly straight part. "So, how long did it take to set up? This is quite the party," an older woman sitting next to Mrs. Clark asks Connor. "Yeah, Connor," I ask, attempting to hide my smirk. "How long did it take us to set up?" Connor's face turns bright red, nearly causing his golden freckles to vanish. Martha stands slightly behind me with her arms crossed, waiting for his response. "Well, all day, of course," Connor replies with a crooked smile. "What was the hardest thing to get ready for?" Tori asks as she walks up behind me, waving a half-eaten stick of cotton candy at him. She never ceases to impress me. Connor's smile fades ever so slightly. Connor looks frantically around the farm for something to catch his eye. "Oh, the corn maze, of course. That took a long time to mow." Martha nearly choked down her laughter because Grandmother was standing right behind him with her hands on her hips. I can hear her tapping her foot as the leaves crunch beneath it. Once Connor has realized that everyone is staring behind him, he pauses and turns around. Immediately, his face goes flat, eyes wide and afraid. "Hello, Grandma Dowie," he says, nervously scratching his head. Martha and Tori cover their mouths in sync, trying to hide their giggles. "I hear you worked hard on that maze," Grandmother asks him. Unsure of what to do, he just nods. "Well then, you must know it like the back of your hand. How about you take a turn when it's open and show all the little kids how it's done? You can go first." Grandmother always knows how to humble someone with style, and she also knows that Connor never does the maze. He's always too scared, though he'll claim it's because it's for children. He shudders, looking for a way out of this situation. "Oh, how exciting," Mrs. Clark says, clapping her hands together. "I always love a good test. I'll time you." Connor looks at Mrs. Clark, pale as a ghost, and slowly forms the next words out of his mouth. "Sure. Yeah, I could do that." He turns to look at Grandmother. "Can't be too hard, right?" "Right," she says with a knowing smile. Chapter 4. One Wrong Turn. Tune in tomorrow.